Oh, God.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta.
Everybody's here to watch the clown show.
Presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com.
All right, Chad, I gotta go get a beer.
CNN Max and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment.
Take a shot every time one of them interviews. Take a shot every time the economy or healthcare is brought up, and take a shot when Biden pauses.
People with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes.
Can we get Robert on the screen
there
with his
is
own
no
podium?
Studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate both candidates and their campaigns,
Oh boy, oh boy.
These rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Oh my God, he's without his Pookie Obama. Why is it just silent? No, is nobody there?
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Oh my God. How high are those pants up, bro? Is he okay?
Gentlemen,
guys,
so
the debate is a 5-minute walk from my apartment. Should I break in?
Consistently say is their top concern the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120.
I just got here. When does the kissing start?
Prices have jumped more than
I'm trying to see
backstage.
some old men go
what
at
do you
it.
say to voters who feel
You
they are
feel
worse
me?
off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We
Is
had
he
an
okay?
economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs.
His voice is
Unemployment rate rose
not
to 15%.
good.
It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where...
Get Joe some Wawa. Get Joe some Wawa, please.
But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble.
It sounds like his voice is coming back.
I come of household where the kitchen...
Did he just not talk all day?
Able to be met during the month was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of...
Turn the volume up. How can you not hear?
I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce...
It's at max volume, and it's really high on stream as well. It's just under my mic volume.
We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over.
I'm so used to the TTS that I genuinely did not register that as real.
In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration...
Turn on audio
didn't do much
compression.
at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure.
Are you talking to them?
A situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is making...
Guys, who's got the better turkey neck?
All Americans. So we're working...
Put a vote up. Put a poll.
And that's what we're going to get.
Which one's turkey necks are better?
Thank you.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it.
Okay, when do they start playing tonsil hockey?
COVID, and when we did, we spent the money
Trump's tie
necessary
is
so we wouldn't end
fucking
up in a
huge,
Great Depression,
bro.
the likes of which we had in 1929. By the
That tie
time
is
we finished,
thick
so
as
we did a
shit.
great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID
Blit
mess.
business, oh
He
boy,
created
let's
mandates
talk
that was a
America.
disaster for our country, but
The
other
COVID
than
mess
that,
you
we had-
ignored?
We had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible.
Bro, you
The only
literally
jobs he created are
barred
for
the information of
illegal
COVID
immigrants
from
and bounce back jobs,
society.
to bounce back from the COVID. He has not
The
done a good
COVID.
job. He's done a poor
Bounce
job,
back
and
from the
inflation's
COVID.
killing our country.
We're bouncing
It is
back from the
absolutely
COVID.
killing us.
Thank
The
you,
COVID's
President Biden.
killing us. We're gonna bounce
Well, it's the
back.
greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know...
Not that
fact
either of
the matter
them
is that,
look good at all,
we find
but
ourselves in
Trump
a
looks
situation where
way better than
his-
Biden
his
does.
It
economy-
sounds like both of them are
Wealthy.
recovering from
He had the
giving the
largest
most
tax
raw
cut in American
doggy
history,
sloppy toppy
$2
head.
trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only
Probably because
president
Trump's
I've
got
ever
a
heard
little
who's lost
orange
more jobs
graffiti
than he
spray
had
behind the
in
stage for him.
since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He
That's
didn't
true.
do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I
Really?
want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the
Can
minute
I
we give you.
respond?
I want to follow up.
Can I
You
quote
want to impose
retweet him?
a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others. In
Oh,
all
he
fairness
said
to
it. China.
It's going to just force
Trump's
them to pay us
tie
a
looks
lot of
like
money,
Joe
reduce our
grabbed it to
deficit
kiss him.
tremendously, and give us a lot of power
China.
for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history.
big
That's why we had
businesses,
all the
not for
jobs.
everybody.
And the jobs went down. And
He
then
cut
they bounced
taxes
back,
for
and
big
he's taking credit
businesses,
for
not
bounce back
anybody
jobs.
else.
You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months, and then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what
I
they
love that
were
the
doing, and
presidents
they don't
are
know what
always
they were doing. It was the
blamed
worst, probably the worst
or
administration in
inflation
history. There's never been.
when it's
And as
like
far as
literally
Afghanistan
companies are
is
just
concerned,
increasing their
I was
shit
getting out of
and there's no laws to
Afghanistan,
stop
we were
them.
getting
Like
out
it's
with
like
dignity, with strength, with power.
the presidents just have to
He
sit
got
there
out.
and
It was
take
the
it because
most
there's no laws in
embarrassing day
place
the
to stop
history
it.
of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations,
Wait, he said-
the national debt soared
He
to
said,
record
did he say
highs.
getting out of
And according to a new
Afghanistan was the
nonpartisan
worst day of the
analysis, President
country's
Trump, your
life?
administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved
Did I hear that?
$4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax
Pardon?
cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits,
Trump's
and
tie
record
literally
debt,
looks like a
why should
fake tie you got
top
from a
earners and
Halloween store.
corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax.
I'm
and
convinced you
companies were
could
bringing back
get on one of these
trillions dollars
debates
back
and
into
just
our
start
country.
saying
The
shit.
country
And if
was
people
growing
like you
like
enough,
never
they're going to be like,
before.
yeah,
And we were
yeah,
ready
yeah.
to start paying
He's
down
right.
debt. We're ready
This
to start
guy's
using
clowning
the
on
liquid
him.
gold right under
This
our
other guy's
feet.
a bozo.
The oil and gas right under our feet. we were going to have something that nobody else has
Money
had.
good when I was there, but money bad now that I'm gone.
I gave him an
money bad because I'm not there. Therefore, you got to vote for me because that way money's good instead of bad.
We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we
Joe looks like he's getting some color back.
More people died under his administration.
Surely we weren't one of the countries known to handle it the worst because we kept letting up lockdown and not wearing masks.
In his administration,
far more people dying in his administration. Millions died in COVID under Trump's presidency. Pause.
The thing that people most objected to about the vaccine, and he did
millions died because of COVID.
And I will tell you,
and he is saying that more people have died in the 4 years Biden's been president. Pause.
They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election.
That's crazy.
To go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons,
Donald Trump, we are not a third world country. I can drive 5 minutes out my door and get to a Chick-fil-A.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden,
we need a bombastic side-eye square on the bingo for real.
Like, let's be honest here.
Debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening?
Probably
They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay
nothing.
2% in taxes.
Yeah.
If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period.
No other percent.
Wipe out his debt.
Just 24 or 25. I'll accept nothing else.
We need to do child care, care, making sure that we continue to support
that was Trump.
Our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person.
Trump has a whole vagina on his neck.
To do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Bro, I thought something was about to happen.
He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare.
They're
putting them on
he cooked them.
They're going to destroy Social Security.
Can't lie. That's a cook.
Remember what to say. I would fumble so hard the minute they put me up there. Also, it's so hard to listen to them. It's like a family reunion where you have to listen to Grandpa.
So he was right in the way to finish that sentence.
Can I turn off TTS?
What's happened to our country?
Can Ahmad take the TTS redemption away?
Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people.
That's probably a good idea.
I cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected.
Thank you, Lake.
They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people.
God, I wonder why we're stupid.
For other countries, and they do nothing for us.
Jarvis, show me America's funding into our education system in the past 30 years.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning,
that was literally like
yet another abortion
half a year ago, girl.
Temporarily allowing emergency abortions.
Can I put the video on full screen? No, it's going to mess up the capture. It's harder to do it that way.
President Trump,
sorry.
You take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned.
They both look like they're one McDonald's
However,
Sprite away from cardiac arrest. JFC.
Whether or not women have access to abortion pills.
Here we go. Abortion bills time.
About 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex.
What?
51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives.
There's no way.
Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court.
And they got rid of it.
Vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks, and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar
everybody wanted it
throughout the world.
Everybody wanted it. The 6 people on the Supreme Court, that's everybody. They said yes.
Are working it out.
Everybody wanted it.
It was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states.
Everybody wanted it, guys. We got rid of abortion. It's gone. I've banned it. I took it out back.
Frankly, I think
made it look at the sunset.
Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But
everybody wanted it.
Exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But
Joe looks like he's seeing a spirit from the other side of the room, but he can't say anything.
You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will.
Joe looks like the Hat Man's in the corner, and he can't pay attention to him. Otherwise, he's going to get him.
If you look at the
amount of times he's like, it looks like he's trying to look away from stuff, which is probably because he's trying to not look at Trump. But it really kind of looks like he's hiding. He's trying to not make contact with the Hat Man.
We brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Joe keeps looking over at him thinking, this guy actually exists.
The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous.
That is true.
Nothing about it.
Statistically, rape is commonly within the family.
Many young women murdered.
Statistically speaking, I mean, it still can happen outside of families, but it does happen commonly within, which is gross, but true.
Opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting.
Did I just teleport back 8 years?
Frankly, a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But
the founders from a different country who wanted everybody welcome into the country.
Brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote.
The founders would wonder why 2 80-year-old men are running for president.
Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic.
They muted him.
7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run.
After birth? That's not an abortion. Again, what are you talking about?
Virginia. Put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's
post-pregnant abortion.
As we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen. Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not.
They take the baby out and then they stab him with a knife.
Period.
I'm telling you, they're doing it.
You have late-term abortion.
Roe v. Wade's doing it. Roe's coming out.
You can do whatever you want.
Coming out with a knife, stabbing the child.
We think it's a radical thing. We think
it's terrible. It's simply terrible.
Not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety
it's such a funny thing seeing him get shut down.
Why should voters trust you?
You know he's fuming.
Because we worked.
You know he is so fucking mad, and now he can't talk again.
Change all of that.
He's gotta be pissed.
We are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now.
I need to say something. Let me
increase the number of asylum officers significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages. The families were
it's me, the ghost of Joe Biden.
What I've done since I've changed the law.
Kill yourself.
Changed in the way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative.
Why do I sound like the film voice actor?
More border and more asylum officers.
Fuck, I'm trying to remember film. Oh, they took my kidney.
Said at the end of that sentence, I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
Charlie!
All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons.
Biden's been helping harsher immigration laws enact than anything.
The largest number of terrorists.
He's basically backpacking off of Trump's immigration laws.
All over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in.
What does that have to do with the border, man?
Just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency.
Joe was bamboozled. Look at how flabbergasted this man is.
And by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
I won't say that, but he did say that.
Speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
There's less violent crime in the past 2 years, 2, 3, 4 years than there has been in a long time. Like record-breaking drop in violent crime. Probably because everybody's struggling too bad to give a shit about murder.
But 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American
history. Do we get another
unquote.
Kona big wave?
Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America?
I have Guinness, but it doesn't really feel like a Guinness kind of vibe.
Whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
This doesn't feel like a Guinness sort of situation.
We killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani.
Daddy?
The 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad
Yeah, Guinness is a sport kind of situation. This isn't sport. This is sad.
Dying, and also killing our citizens.
Every time Trump talks, Joe's just...
We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border.
Every single time Trump says something crazy, Joe's just...
insane and very stupid policies. People are coming in
Here he
and they're
goes.
killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them
get roasted. You've been absolutely roasted by the Trumpmeister. Zero recovery, Joe Biden. Sleepy Joe.
This is horrible.
Just leave.
What's taken place?
I'll step in the White House. Just leave. You might as well leave.
An uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, or we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look
Texas
at where
is literally creating border policy that's like actually fatal.
Our veterans are under
or trying to. Legally, they're not supposed to be able to federally,
he doesn't
but
like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these.
It is crazy that nobody fact checks.
And I think he did it just because I approved
at all
it, which
during
is
this.
Crazy. But he has killed so many people. At
like
our
they
border
could
by
both just
allowing
be
all of these
totally
people to come in.
inaccurate.
And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it.
It's my kissing face, Joe.
What
You're trying to kiss me.
Whether it was Agent Orange.
It's almost kissing time. Kiss, Mr. Sleepy Joe.
And he opposed.
I'll see you backstage.
We're also in a
I'm ready.
where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits. Came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
The 4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's
I just missed something.
He didn't do a thing.
My daughter was being cute.
Place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000.
They asked Trump a question about Russia, and he just talked about how Biden sucks.
Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three.
Every time I do anything React Andy related, I walk away and I miss something crazy.
This guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want, and that's exactly what Trump did to Putin.
He called him a loser and a sucker.
He went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never
come back
said
to you
that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
Right.
Biden, you have a minute.
Much like you saved lives during COVID.
Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire. Not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think?
Yeah, they made the presidential Yowie emote a real thing.
What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to
what are you guys
find
drinking?
out what he's going to do, because if
he
does what he says and walks away. By the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point.
It's a frothy boy, Chad. Look at that.
Produced as much.
That's a crispy beer.
We have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages.
This will be good.
Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis.
I'm not trying to bet both of them are going to be pro-Israel.
President Biden,
well, I don't know. Biden started publicly pretending he likes Palestine now, even though he funded Israel a bunch.
Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one.
2 minutes to decide how to end a war is crazy.
Security Council, straight through to the G7, to the Israelis, and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding the only thing
America, how are you going to solve
2,000-pound bombs?
A political
they don't
crisis.
Work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran.
It's crazy to call it a war.
Full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't
Every
have
time
to do it.
Job says something crazy, Trump goes,
greatly weakened Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should.
And then every time Trump says something crazy, Joe goes,
but you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that.
I'm going to ignore your question. I'm going to go back to my question.
So you got to put up
I wasn't finished.
With NATO.
Joe, quit looking at me like that. You know I like when you look at me like that. So starry-eyed and dazed and confused.
They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion.
So you're ignoring the question about the Middle East
on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
Grandpa Joe versus Orange Man Part 2 Electric Boogaloo.
NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO.
I mean, he is correct that Israel wants to continue, but I don't know about finishing the job. That's pretty fucked up.
Big ocean, but
I mean, that's just casually saying that thousands and thousands should just die.
You have Putin continue to go into NATO. You have an Article
3
5
beers in, man.
Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland.
Yeah, I mean, he is straight up endorsing a genocide. That's crazy.
He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent?
What are you guys going to do to stop the Middle East war? Let me talk about Ukraine.
But before we do that,
I must continue about Ukraine.
Is that we spend all the money. So they
Putin's going to give me a slap on the butt if I don't talk about Ukraine.
Because if you add them up, they're about
He's being very upset with me. He's saying I'm a bad boy. Normally I like that. Now I like being a bad boy, but I can't be a bad boy for Mr. Pooty Woody. That's not allowed.
Their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time?
Really?
I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions
I doubt
of
that
dollars
happened. They would probably taken him out had he said something.
But now we're in the
very
same
secret
position.
meeting
We're
that
paying
I'm
everybody's
now
bills.
100% telling you about.
Democracy, former
I'm going to
President
leak
Trump,
the meeting, the secret meeting, the meeting of secret nations. You weren't invited. You're not that secret. I'm secret. You're not. I'm way more secret than you. I'm hugely secret, and that was a secret meeting.
You swore an oath to,
and I'm going to tell you all about
it. And defend, unquote, the Constitution.
Billions of dollars.
What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath?
Oh wait, Jan 6. Hold on.
Inaction on January 6th, and worry that you'll do.
Oh, I heard guy,
On January 6th, we had a great border.
The Bob's Burger actor for Jimmy Pesto just got pleaded guilty to his involvement.
On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point we'll be talking
this doesn't
about,
even answer the
where
question.
he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th,
Bro said answer the question.
And worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody.
He did, though.
I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker.
On tape to her daughter.
Saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of
very good 5, 6, 50.
By the way, the mayor,
my daughter,
turned it down.
My daughter
of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech.
This is
I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president.
It's been 3 fucking years with this Sneeg guy. Don't these 2 idiots have nursing homes to go die in?
I wish. Patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted.
True.
He says he wants to commute their sentences and
True.
say that no. He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said no.
Joe needs a throat lozenge.
This guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did a damn thing, and these people should be and they should be the ones being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Oh, he called him a whiner.
President Trump?
Well, they've done.
I'm not a whiner.
That are so innocent.
How dare you call me a whiner? I am the most.
You've destroyed the lives
you bitch.
Of so many people.
You are such a wiener. You're a big penis. Not in the good way, in the bad way. You're a big penis right now.
Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of the. They took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject
Seattle?
is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically 2 horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man.
Does anyone have a death note? We could really use it right now.
What he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no...
Damn, saute him!
...stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill, and all those people, every one of those who were convicted, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates
he said, "Come on."
Debates we had first time around,
Joe Biden, classic line delivery. Come on.
No, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing. Will you denounce these guys?
Joe came to Seattle to campaign.
You denounce the people who attacked that Capitol?
I don't know what they were talking about either. I don't know what he was talking about with Seattle.
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted.
High level?
Convicted probably.
He had a gun without disclosing it. That's not that crazy.
Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. Have I ever said that?
What?
That's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky.
What?
You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you're charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, for having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
I didn't have
Dan, this really a schoolyard.
Yo!
That was a case that was started.
Damn!
They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case.
Whoa!
That case is going to be appealed and won.
Whoa!
A very terrible judge.
Biden blast!
Democrat. The prosecutor.
Suck my cock.
Democrats appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal.
Oh my God!
He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these
cases, that's crazy, bro. Got his ass.
No idea what these cases are. But what he
went full jugular on him.
You know what they did? My poll numbers went up way up. You know that because you're reporting it.
It was a great burp. I burp really well. I burp hugely. Everybody goes, Mr. Trump, your burps are fantastic. I burp really well. I've burped my entire life, and I've trained myself to burp very boisterously. And I know the best way to burp, and I've studied the art of burping. And everybody goes,
quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around.
You think Trump has anybody go to his little neck gizzard and...
He has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that... Could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run the first...
Trump is red and sweating.
In Iraq, because of Iraq.
I don't know. Trump doesn't look very much different than when he showed up, but Biden looks like ghostly. And now he looks way like more colored.
Torches. and singing.
He looked like ghostly white when he first showed up, and then he was talking like this. And he still kind of talks like a strained voice, but.
And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say? Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas. We're fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that story. He just
That's not true.
He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance.
No, don't do Pampers. Do
He's
Depends.
Not equipped to be president. You know it. And
the likelihood of both of them having Depends on is pretty high.
His presidency.
That's a good point.
Without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story.
I don't know, bro. Martin Van Buren existed. He absolutely slaughtered Native Americans.
Has debunked it.
Like a piece of shit.
The other day it came out where it was fully
Reagan ruined the economy. Nixon spied on everybody and was an idiot.
And he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse.
There's plenty of examples.
President Biden.
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw
There's no aura here, man.
His own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top.
Why can't we have a president with aura?
Refused to endorse him this time.
That isn't 80. Why are both of these people 80?
Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Oh, mid-game break. Look smoother at the camera. Give him your best purse clip. It's me, the president. I'm right here. Donald Trump. Damn, I'm sexy. Oh, wait, that's probably copyrighted. Diaper change. Kiss break. This is what is insane to me, man. How are we dealing with two 80-year-old men yelling at each other for president? Two people that could die tomorrow. Like, they are in the age gap where shit can just go wrong instantly. Yet we are considering their capacity and wisdom the utmost important and the best model of leadership. Like, we need to allow or somehow tell or let younger politicians run, because it is crazy. Like, whichever one of these people win is going to enact laws that they will never see. Like, they will literally die of old age before they're going to see half of the shit that they put into office. Why are you in charge? It is not even in your best favor to leave a better place when you're done being a president. So, like, why are you even able to do this? Doesn't even make any fucking sense. That makes no sense. Maybe when both of them, like, maybe when Trump was, like, originally elected, that age, maybe.
Who can run this country.
Maybe. It's been 8 years. Like literally both of them are 80. 78. 81. Trump is 78, Biden is 81. I mean, like, have you listened to any 70, 80-year-old person and you're like, man, this guy really knows what's going on?
I love this so much.
Like, my dad is 74. I would maybe trust my dad with this job. But I think my dad is an anomaly in this situation. I don't think every 74-year-old has the capacity to rationalize the amount of people that they're leaving behind and how they should enact that. You know what I mean? You could probably think of 1, 2, or 3 people who are about the age of 70 to 80 that these two are, and consider them responsible and understanding people. The rest of them, absolutely not. For reasons we talked about prior, with the age gap and the technological gap and the inability, like the bitterness and everything. There's no way.
Families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes.
That's true.
And Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans.
Absolutely true.
What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history.
That doesn't have to do with anything in terms of incarceration rate.
Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number 3, we find
I cannot wait to hear what Trump has to say about this shit.
And dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
Didn't answer the
question. I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor,
what are we talking about, man?
If they paid their bills for 10 years.
What does this have to do with the incarceration rate of Black Americans?
Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black
Zero
families.
things have been answered about the 5 times rate of incarcerated Black men in America.
He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled.
That's not true.
They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation.
It has increased,
perfect.
but quadrupled is crazy.
All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being.
Bro got the turtle posture. Did you see that? Bro,
as sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big
Joe Biden has ruined the economy.
The millions of people that he's
inflation
through the border. They're taking Black
he's
jobs
killing
now,
people.
And it could be 18,
inflation quadrupled.
It could be 19 and even 20 million.
Absolutely
people.
crazy.
They're taking Black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet. but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in the
I think he's
Balkan
just spitting venom,
minority
but
We
I mean,
made
that
sure
isn't
they had
true.
health
I think he's just making a point.
The ACA has increased. I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has.
Does nothing, by the way.
Cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on.
More cops on the
And
street
inflation,
does nothing.
He caused it by his
Adding more
tremendous
patrolmen per shift just makes people think they're safer. It doesn't actually prevent more crime.
2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and
oh boy,
communities
climate
across
change. Here we go.
the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Zero.
Let me just go back to what he said about the
Oh
police.
boy.
How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities where I funded them.
Super Predators was a reference to the increase, well, what people thought was happening to children in terms of serial killing and crime.
And it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country.
It's why there was a really harsh laws on minors
we have the best numbers
in terms of murder for a long
ever.
time.
They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. No idea. Maybe it's true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up.
I don't know if the president's swearing is very good.
Universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where
what does this have to do with climate change?
He is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water. The cleanest water? He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, climate accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to do all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it.
That's just not. There's no way that's true, bro.
But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country.
Oh, the Biden grin.
Our schools,
he did the grin.
And they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
What does this have to do with climate change?
We were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half.
Why does Joe have a pen in his hand? Progress. What the fuck is bro writing?
Make progress. We set up a
taking notes?
For thousands of young people will learn
doodling?
How to deal with just like the Peace Corps.
Trump is cute.
We're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that
paper airplanes it over to him.
Really
what is this? What is this note?
Pollution and about climate. I've not.
Oh my goodness!
That. And by the way,
I have a crush in the class. Who sent me this letter?
One company agreed that they would
Trumpy like
to $35, which I was calling for. One voluntarily.
Trump thinks he's a cutie too.
Every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way.
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many
Yikes.
older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000.
Yes, sir.
Of their income,
get them
paycheck every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old.
We are losing Social Security because we are paying so much out of debt to stop our debt ceiling. We are taking so much money from taxes to solve our governmental debt that we are losing Social Security security.
Under $400,000 after that.
That's not a stutter. Social Security's financial security is being taken away because we are putting so many taxes towards solving the financial debt
so you still have 82
that we're not able to keep up with it.
Be able to help keep Social Security solvent.
What is on the screen? What is this?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing will do if we defeat this man.
I'm scared.
He wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare.
That's
both
true.
Times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican Caucus, that
if billionaires paid even
want to cut it as well,
5% more than they do,
need to protect our seniors.
It would do so much.
It's
actually insane.
The American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where...
Get Omega Joe out of here. Get him out.
40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things, too.
Bro's projecting big time.
We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation.
You're politicians. Both of you do this. That's all both of you do.
Total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals.
That's not how Social Security works, bro.
What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels.
You can't even dip into Social Security until you're
really
over the age of
back.
65.
I've never seen such anger in our country before.
And you need to have built that off of your taxes through the years.
I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said.
You took my line. I say fired.
When he said it.
You've plagiarized me, Sleepy Joe, you dirty little bastard. I'm the one that says fired, not you. You've taken it from me, my glorious gun.
Taking away our jobs.
Unbelievable.
The reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world.
No.
And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue.
I'm interested.
But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families,
diapers are very expensive.
The cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp.
Answer the question!
Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border?
Answer the question!
Allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time.
Give me
on
a
this
kiss.
Debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a
nothing
bit.
burger, Mr. Trump. That's what you say. A
It's
nothing burger.
Insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And
your mom thinks Trump is on drugs?
If he wins this election, our country
he just talks like this, man.
Not even a chance.
I mean, like, if you
of coming out of this
were exposed to the shit that he was talking about, like that he did for the 4 years he was around, he just, this is what he does. I mean, he could be on drugs this whole time, but...
The most admired country in the world, we're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We're the finest military in the history of the world.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're...
Most of my tax dollars go in there.
No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two.
He's not wrong.
That we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with
how dare
child
you?
Care,
You're upsetting me.
For virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women.
Yeah, you didn't answer the question.
Single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. and they rate me. I'll show you. I will show you. And they rate me one of the best. Okay. And
show me. I'll show you. I'll show you right now. I'll show you so hard. I'll show you so hard how you stink. You're a big stinky fuck. You're a big stinky winky, Joe Biden.
Like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise.
You're a little stinky poo-poo man. I said it. Nobody else wanted to say it. I'll say it. You're a big stinky fart. The stinkiest fart, like an 81-year-old fart, which happens to be your age.
Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on.
What is Biden looking at? I said that Biden's basically, the hat man is in the corner and Biden can't look at him.
But this tariff is 10%.
It's kind of what he always gives off when he looks around. He never really looks like he's looking at somebody, which honestly,
$2,500 a year.
I can relate to that. Anxiety makes me hate eye contact, so I constantly look sometimes, like kind of near people, but not actually. I'm kind of always looking a little off to the side.
He somehow
the anxiety monster is going to grasp me if I make enough confident eye contact.
$5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any
My beers are gone. This is sad.
Any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit.
Technically, this will end in 15 minutes, so I don't think it's worth getting another.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under
Big deal.
Your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made,
that's
more than
honestly what he should just be doing. This like
every year. Primarily from
tell him. Don't let him deny it.
What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China.
He's literally this guy who like has a question but can't answer the gets asked a question.
But do you notice he never took out
from a person?
Because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved
what the hell was that?
And there was more to come, but he hasn't.
Did anybody else just hear that?
But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't because it's too much money. But he hasn't done that. Tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's
that. What was that?
In China, he never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous, and we saved our steel.
My tummy hurts. I'm talking. Even though my tummy hurts, I've got a big ouchie in my tum tum, but I'll stay here.
He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's. We had to get tough, and it was the drugs pouring.
I did a little poo-poo.
Quick little thing. Please be normal about people who need to wear diapers. There are people who use them that aren't the old white guy that you hate.
We did a lot.
I understand what you're saying.
We were getting very low numbers,
but
very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers.
Since you're watching the debate, I got my sister to watch your reaction to it. LOL.
You understand we're talking about these two in particular.
Exclamation mark 3 moths. Wow. Wow is letting the orange run with his fucking felons.
The worst thing I've ever seen. At numbers that nobody's ever seen.
I do know what you're saying, but also at the same time,
but the number of drugs coming across
within this situation, you understand that that's referring to these two.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while.
Did Trump even answer the fucking question?
Use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big
Not like
machines
this.
That roll over everything that comes across the border, and it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together.
Yeah, of course not.
This bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines. More be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers
I don't know, Joe. This sounds like border control, which apparently you don't like.
He called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion.
Sounds like projection,
people.
bud.
I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns.
What did that have to do with fentanyl?
Each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I had my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger.
Was that 50 years ago?
I think that just look at the record. Look
what does that have to do with anything?
I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars.
Toughest job in the world is kind of crazy. I mean, I'm sure people who have to clean up shit out of a toilet would disagree.
Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it.
I imagine working at the McDonald's in a rich neighborhood would suck pretty hard. You'd probably deal with some pretty shit people.
So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000.
Careful.
You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States.
Dangerous acronym.
Significant jobs for Americans.
Dangerous acronym, Joe.
President Biden,
wow.
40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah,
my brain sort of went on alert for a second. I was like, what?
This failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and
China.
Opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world.
China.
We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies, and our
I need it. He said China earlier.
He cuddles up to from Kim Jong-un.
Oh, you're talking about something earlier.
To Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests.
I'm so young and spry.
As you know, we made it public. He took none. I'd like to see
I'm like a spring chicken.
A real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2
My
cognitive
final
tests.
brain cell is trying to phase out of existence. Help.
And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it.
Is he talking about golf?
50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm.
Dude, if they had a golf tournament, I would lose it. That would be so awesome.
A little bit lighter.
Please.
As good a shape as I was.
That would actually be so awesome. Did he say I had to be smart to win a golf tournament?
Cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them.
You just have to know golf. What do you mean?
Great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace.
They gave me one of those machines where you put a shape in the hole, and I put every shape in the correct hole.
6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. You can do it.
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, you know how many?
I've seen you swing.
We're talking about golf now. This is crazy.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
To a specific concern that voters have about you.
Gulp.
You pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made, in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody, and I'll tell you something, I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now.
I think he genuinely believes that the election was stolen from him. I think he genuinely believes it. That's what's crazy, is you cannot convince this guy otherwise.
Because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great
He is
president.
100% convinced that people are out to get him.
I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
Because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President
I ain't going to say no to that.
Kim Jong-un of North Korea.
I don't think Trump's going to make it any better, though.
They don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump,
I don't disagree. I think if they just let Putin take stuff, he's just going to keep taking stuff and be like, that's Russia. That's mine.
Regardless of who wins.
Just to finish what he said, if I might. Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama.
A lot of land from Bush.
They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely.
And you know he's not going to. He's going to disagree.
These, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And
they took it from me. I challenged every state that voted against me, yet all of them said they found no evidence of treason or false allegations, false voting. Zero of them found any evidence. I had to challenge it multiple times, and all of them said no. But it was stolen.
He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments,
then
no
go.
Political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court
what I just
said any of your claims had any merit, state or local. None. You continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something's
Yeah, I am. I whine a lot. That's true. I'm a hugely whine. I'm a big whiner.
From the CNN president.
Very true. I do that all the time. I whine nonstop.
Oh, we're going to a break? I thought this was supposed to be 90 minutes. It's been 90 minutes. All right, piss break, chat. I might get another beer, actually. Beer back. I looked at Twitter for 1 second and I'm losing my shit, bro. So funny. Fuck. I think I lost him. Let me see if I can find the tweet again. No way. Oh, here it is. Biden. Look, the fact is we don't. Look, here's the deal. And this is no fooling. Trump. There are 10 billion Guatemalans attacking the Lincoln Memorial right now. Trump. Wisconsin's gone. Every single Mexican came and poked holes into the earth of Wisconsin and sunk it beneath Lake Michigan. That's fucking crazy. The problem is you could totally hear him say that.
President Trump
oh shit, we're closing.
We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more.
I got beer in my shirt.
10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter what.
I was too busy bailing out pouring a beer. I didn't hear what they're talking about. Is this closing?
That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over time.
Oh no, the Adderall's going away. Somebody pop Joe another pill real quick.
That available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to
Hunter Biden needs to like flick an Adderall pill into his mouth mid-speech.
What we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight.
Some Dr. Mario shit.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions.
All he is a stinky poo-poo man. He smells of farts, and I find it so attractive. I love the smell of farts. Joe Biden's farts smell so good.
Should have never happened. Iran was
They give me big pee-pee.
Including China. They couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it for 3.5 years.
Ukraine should have never happened. Did Ukraine not start with him in charge? Did the Ukrainian war not start with Trump in charge? Am I crazy?
100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got
it started in 2022.
History, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations.
I guess, yeah, maybe early January.
He's putting a lot of those regulations
or early 2022.
That we've done, nobody's ever seen.
Maybe like during that transition period. I feel like it was early 2022, right? February. Oh, so like right as Joe became in office,
or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months
to get office in 21,
can go out and get themselves fixed up.
Dude, I have no idea what the fuck's happening anymore. I blinked after COVID and I have a daughter, so like, also I don't give a shit about either of these people. They both suck huge ass. And whichever one is going to get elected is going to die in office most likely.
President Biden, stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Damn, I've got to take a big shit. I've had to take a poopy the whole time. They said the break was not long enough to take a poopy, so I've had to sit here and not take a poopy the whole time.
Debate stage. Looks like Joe Biden,
goodbye.
the First Lady, has come out. Former President Trump walking off the stage
by himself.
The first debate of the 2024 campaign and the earliest presidential debate ever, now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Aaron Burnett, the first word on what those voters might make of it from our political professionals, from our CNN Flash poll and swing state focus group. We'll be talking to surrogates, including Vice President Harris, getting fact checks
Very
from
small
Daniel Dale
steps.
and new reporting from
Challenge
inside
you.
both campaigns. With me here, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, Kate Bedingfield, David Urban, Van Jones.
Oh, he's going to shake their hand.
Night anchor Abby Phillip and David Axelrod, and CNN chief national correspondent John King. John, let me start with you. Your thoughts.
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket, and they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Others are...
Maybe we shouldn't have an 80-year-old run for president. Just an idea.
With that call, because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans,
send Bernie in. Bernie's just as old, man. That's the problem.
Machine more than I can count tonight. That will be on the record.
He's just as old.
He refused to answer some very specific and
I
direct
mean, he's got
about his conduct,
much more
about January 6th
humanitarian choices,
so
but still, I mean, he is.
There. And sometimes there's a parallel universe between.
He's
the
82.
political elites
He's
and the
a
American
year older
people.
than
Be nice
Joe.
to see what the voters say. But I can tell you, it started minutes in. It started with the first couple of answers, and it has continued throughout the night from a, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, to what do we do about this? And it involves very senior people in the Democratic Party, including elected officials, saying we have a problem.
And just to co-sign what John is saying, I mean, the panic that I am hearing from Democrats is not like anything that I have heard in this campaign so far. And a lot of it has to do with, first of all, there was a deep frustration about Trump's lies. I mean, he lied a lot tonight. But the problem for Biden was that Trump was able to take sometimes incredible falsehoods and turn them into some kind of argument, whereas Biden's answers were, in a lot of cases, not coherent, deeply problematic, that he was not able to take pretty straightforward answers and answer them to the American public. And
so why not get somebody
bringing things
I don't know
that teed up Trump attacks
of age that could
a real concern
run without health concerns about like their heart just stopping on stage out of nowhere.
Biden solidified the perception among voters.
So crazy,
but especially among his base. They were hoping that tonight would be a game changer. They are now seeing a president who is in the White House, who they do not necessarily believe can do this for another 4 years.
David Axelrod?
I don't disagree. I think VIPs. I think the vice president is an important choice here.
A Democrat.
I assume Biden keeps Kamala. I don't.
Said at the beginning.
Can a president change vice president on their second term?
And for Biden, that
does that happen?
To appear energetic, engaged, and look like someone who is capable of serving for another 4 years for president. That was job number one. I actually think he scored a bunch of points. I think if you just judge
that does happen,
sort of policy stuff.
I'd be curious if he keeps Kamala as the VP.
On issues like abortion, for example, on some of the economic issues. But
this is going to be with Trump. No, not that, because Trump's gap between office is a thing. But I'm talking like the 4 years Biden's been president and Kamala's been VP. If he wins, or during this, can he just like be like, "You're not going to be my vice president"?
I think
if I win,
had set in, and I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know.
Like a bit different of like if there's a gap between the presidency.
There's going to be discussion about whether he should
if they double term, like could they
part of it is
technically change?
Trump did not meet his mission either.
I'm sure they have, right?
He could not resist the the temptation to be nasty, to prevaricate about a whole bunch of things. About his own record, about Biden's record, and to seem petty and small at times. So
Markiplier's 35.
Was a candidate who's deeply vulnerable.
I don't think Markiplier wants to be president. Markiplier doesn't want much to do with the public at all.
If anybody in America
people bother him
that
enough,
was even close to being an okay debate by Joe Biden, I'm living in a parallel universe. That was an unmitigated disaster for President Biden from the second he walked out to the closing statement. The biggest issue for Democrats is abortion, and he couldn't give an answer. He gave an answer, he couldn't even give a coherent answer on the biggest issue for Democrats tonight. I've heard from leading Democrats across the United States, elected governors.
Yeah, did Alex Jones shave his head?
And saying, I'm worried I'm going to lose if Joe Biden's at the top of the ticket. Bob Casey, I promise you tonight, in the state of Pennsylvania, is thrown up in his mouth because he knows if he's got to stand next to Joe Biden, he's going down in Pennsylvania. If he's on the ticket, I don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah,
I need to be
president. It was a really disappointing debate performance from Joe Biden. I don't think there's any other way to slice
absolutely
it.
not. Also, I'm 27. I cannot run anyway, but absolutely
he had
not.
The energy, he had the stamina, and he didn't do that. And so I think that is of concern, and I think for a lot of Democrats, that's very disappointing. I will say Donald Trump also had some really rough moments in this debate. And talking to the Biden campaign, they say their dials started really moving away from Trump as he was increasing his personal attacks on Biden. So I think there was a lot about his kind of character.
Where to start
and
between both of them,
kind of
man.
personal nastiness that he was putting on display, that doesn't help him with the swing voters that he needs. And I also think you saw him continue to get sort of more and more animated across the course of the debate and, give some really problematic answers about January 6th, some really problematic answers about Putin. So, Donald Trump did not get off scot-free tonight by any stretch. But look, there is no two ways about it. That was not a good debate for Joe Biden.
Ben? That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all.
He's 81. He's 80 years old.
Analysis, kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart.
They're both old as shit. Of course they didn't do well. They can barely muster a thought.
He's doing the best that he can, but he had a test to meet tonight.
Why are we here?
Bro, college football game day looks really different.
It does kind of look like game day. Where's Pat Saban? I heard he was starting this. I heard he was hired to do game day this year.
We're so far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide. This is definitely mine.
From Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just
where's Pat McAfee to say some weird shit?
And if I may just add to that, I think Joe Biden lost in the first 3 minutes. I think a lot of voters probably tuned out, and millions of people are having conversations with their families, with their friends, of if the president is up to the task and if he should step aside. And I'm someone who believes the former president is a threat to democracy. I think he is a threat to the America as we know it. He wants to fundamentally change our institutions. He's
going to run if he loses.
I am not confident.
He's going to run again if he loses, by the way. This is what's crazy. He's going to keep trying until he's dead.
Based on that, in 18 weeks, Donald Trump will be.
Y'all better lock in, because
the people doing focus groups tonight, and we'll see if our style group with Laura Coates confirms this, say that Biden actually scores pretty well on the issues when he's talking about
he's gonna run every single year.
Down, both because he was ducking questions, he was lying about some things, and he was refusing to answer, and some of it was the tone. They don't like him. So when you see that, when you see sort of the statistics, you're going to look at like, oh, that's a mixed bag. But to Vance's point about the president's performance, that's what caused the panic. So the question is, and my question actually is, what happens? Because it's a great political strength of Joe Biden is his resilience and his stubbornness. It's also sometimes a blind spot because he is so stubborn. It's going to be very hard to someone, and I don't know who it is, who could go to Joe Biden and say, you need to do this, number one. And the question is, again, like...
I don't know if handing the presidency to Kamala Harris is such a great idea either, given her
and I have never, ever had what happened on this thing tonight
incarceration rates. But
it started early, and it continued. And to Vance's point, Van made a very important point. These are people who love Joe Biden, who credit Joe Biden for kicking Donald Trump out of the White House. They're Democrats. The Democratic Party is a very diverse party. It fights about a lot of things. It has generational issues. It's had regional issues and everything else. The thing that unites the Democratic Party is trying to keep Donald Trump from getting back into the White House. They love Joe Biden for kicking him out. They don't want him back. They came into
I think that's enough, genuinely.
That Biden was in a weak position. They leave this debate.
I think it doesn't even... Joe could suck so much ass.
If you love him, if you love Joe Biden, if that was my father... You don't put a guy in that situation.
It's a great point. These guys know this better. These guys know this better because they talk to them. There's this legacy in the Democratic Party. You don't challenge the incumbent because when it's happened in the past, they haven't beaten the incumbent, and then the incumbent has lost the general election.
It was actually Donald Trump that helped make Joe Biden the nominee because there was a feeling that if there were a primary, that would weaken, that Biden would probably win, but it would weaken him in a general election. And so there were people who could have run and didn't run because the history of that is bad. The point is now he is the nominee of the Democratic Party.
Anybody who's challenged the former president to the re-election of the party has not won.
Only he can decide whether he's going to continue. And as you point out, and as Kate knows very well, this is a guy with a lot of pride and who believes in himself. And the idea that he's going to say, you know what, I had a bad debate, I think I'm going to walk away from this, I find it hard to believe.
It was also, and I'll let you, I know Scott, you've been trying to jump in, but it was also, it was an atypically bad performance, okay? And it was also one night. So yes, was it an important night? Yes, but It was one night in the course of a campaign, so I think let's see how voters react to it. Let's see how voters react to it.
The problem with the one night, is that it's a one night that helped confirm people's fears. It's the one night that everybody was watching. It was was essentially, you know, Trump said you ought to take a test. That was his test, and people. The
problem is the other option is no better.
I think he actually won on the substance. I don't think Trump did well. I think what it says to a lot of people, a lot of active Democrats, is, man, we can beat this guy.
Neither option is good.
With the press,
Scott, we haven't heard from you.
But we know that.
When we came on before this debate, I said I thought this candidacy was teetering.
Yeah, let Scott cook.
And everybody jumped on me.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Every single person out here. And I just, the candidacy has fallen. Okay, Van, I know you're speaking from your heart. I'm worried about the president. We should pray for the president. I think his advisors, I think the White House, and I think his family have a lot of explaining to do to their party and to the American people. This night, this one night, was caused by and asked for by the Biden team. They wanted this night. And this is what we got. We have been told for weeks by Democrats who say, oh, in private meetings, I've seen Joe Biden do cartwheels and handstands while doing trigonometry while solving all the nation's problems. We now know that every single person who said that has been lying to the American people.
Including Kevin McCarthy?
We've been told, Kate.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Kate, everything we've been told about his mental acuity by these Democrats has been a lie, and everything we think we knew.
Does a single person believe that?
I got a text from a friend. She's not terribly political. She'd maxed out to Biden in the last election because she hates Donald Trump. She said to me,
ain't that hard?
I'll never forgive the Democratic Party for this election. If the Democrats truly believe that he is an existential threat to democracy, and that's not just some talking point, they will wake up in the morning and
mute your mic, bro,
else because this is not sustainable.
That's another point about there are Democrats who are panicking, and then there are a lot of Republicans who did not want to vote for Donald Trump, who do not want to vote for Donald Trump, who are also panicking tonight. I heard from one who said, this is scary. That's how it was described to me. And
I'd second that.
There were a lot of those feelings, not just from the base of the party, but other people who really think that there should be an alternative to Trump, who they think is dangerous. And that's the other part of what is unfolding tonight in terms of the panic that is out there.
You already have, coming into this debate, support for third-party candidates, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. highest, and then Jill Stein and Cornel West nowhere near as close. But if you add it all up, you get into the teens in most states when you do that. I think one byproduct out of this is watch and see if those numbers go up a little bit.
3 doctors or something.
They're going to go up anywhere like a Perot standard, but you get to third-party candidates getting into double digits, then that's really starts to twist your electoral math state depending on who they're drawing from state by state.
It's also not 80.
This is already a very complicated race. This is within. Number one, the biggest complication right now is the conversation with the Democratic Party. But the other complication is going to be if Joe Biden stays put, and Kate's right, maybe there'll be another debate. I'm not sure Donald Trump's going to agree to a second debate. Biden's going to need it now. I'm not sure Trump's going to agree to it. If
71 guys.
And I would also watch the third party.
Down.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Especially to you two guys. If, for whatever reason, there's a change at the top of the ticket, you guys are in trouble with Donald Trump, because the guy who was up there tonight is not a guy who's going to inspire people. He did not show in any way.
Bro, you go to Cornell West's Wikipedia, the places that he went to school: Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Dartmouth.
Several policy exchanges tonight. I think he did well on immigration. I think he did well on the economy. I think he did well on inflation. I think he went back to Afghanistan as he should have.
Bro's smart as shit.
The thing he did not do was, after he realized that he had Biden beaten on policy and on image, he should have turned the page and sounded an optimistic note about what we can become as a people and as a country. He did not do that. He continued to pummel Joe Biden all night. I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the night, very few things about the policy exchanges.
Why is this guy glistening?
People are going to remember Joe Biden.
He looks airbrushed.
Shuffling out They're going to remember him staring blankly into the camera. They're going to remember him looking down, losing his train of thought. And they're going to remember that
This guy's glasses. Wipe your glasses,
told me,
man.
Don't believe my own eyes.
What is this guy doing?
But that's not what I'm saying. What I said, Scott, was
wipe your glasses.
If Joe Biden,
he's sweaty. His shoulder is sweaty.
If there was another candidate, I think Donald Trump would be in deep.
Yeah, but
trouble.
If I may, that is such a sad state of affairs. Something I was consistently hearing is, what a bad debate in the sense that Donald Trump lied throughout. He misrepresented. He tried to turn away from key points that he should have given answers on. And
he is like actually wet. I'm interested in watching because I want to see how bad it goes.
He would have won the night, but you put somebody who was suffering from the moment that they got out. It was hard to watch. I had to occasionally look away because it was so uncomfortable. I think America deserves better than the options that are in front of them. It's really devastating. And by the way, our allies are watching.
Yeah, look, I mean, the way that I would try to phrase it if I were less emotional is Biden stuttered, but he told the truth. He looked terrible, but his policies were good. Trump spoke plainly, but he lied the whole time. And he looked good, but his policies were terrible. I mean, he's going to do nothing on climate change. He was hugging the cactus on abortion. I mean, his policies are terrible. So you have somebody who
hugging the cactus is a great analogy,
and you have somebody who cannot be president in terms of what Donald Trump represents. So we have a problem as a country now, and this might be an opportunity for people to come together and figure this out.
True.
Because neither one of those people right now are inspiring the confidence
should not and
that they
cannot
should inspire that they can do the job in a way that would be good for the country.
But young voters are up for grabs in this election, and I don't know a voter under 30 who would have watched tonight and could say, I have confidence in Joe Biden and casting my vote for 4 more years of Biden.
And this opens the door, by the way, for the conversation about if Joe Biden remains the candidate.
But also voting for Trump is pretty
for Joe
fucking
Biden.
crazy.
You are voting for President Kamala Harris. Let's be honest. That is where the Trump campaign is going to go with this. They started down this road with an ad they released today. But this conversation about who you're actually casting your vote for,
I
the volume
mean,
is going to ratchet up. And I got news for you. She's less popular than he is. That is going to be a big problem for the Democrats if this ticket stays the way it is.
Yeah, and to Scott's Democratic friend who maxed out, right? That's the sentiment
cop
you're going to hear,
lover.
I think, from some of my Democratic friends who are texting me saying, "I can't believe this is where we are." Right?
Yeah.
I don't forgive. I can't. I'm not going to be able to forgive the party for putting in this position.
Look,
on the lies about on
Debate
Donald
night in
Trump's
America,
lies, I
VP
spent a lot of time
Kamala
thinking about
Harris.
this
What?
throughout the debate because, you know, we in the media, I sit
Who is she
in a
debating?
chair and I fact check Trump all the time, so I know these lies by heart at this point. But people watching from home do not. And Biden's job as the other person on the other side of the stage is to be the one to very quickly dispense with the lies and to shut them down.
We
and
did it,
I don't
Joe.
think that happened enough times.
I'm gonna
in a
debate
coherent
myself.
way to blunt the fact that Trump was taking a universe that was built on a house of lies and building a whole world for the millions of people watching.
Particularly on some of the most basic subject matters that President Biden should have been able to.
I want to see how much
world that he was
sweatier
able
this
to
guy
build,
is, and then I'm
It was
satisfied.
not knocked down by the president. That is really at the heart of the problem. He may have won when he was making his discrete policy points, but part of the job on the debate stage is dealing with
We got a game after this? Nah, bro. I'm 4 beers deep. I'm ready to sit in my couch and eat
on
chips.
things that are not true. And if you don't
I'm
deal
not
with
sure,
that,
Abby.
I don't know if
But
no one at home is doing that.
All I
No
want
one
to
at
say
home
is,
doing that.
I'm not sure. I don't think you're giving viewers enough credit. I think what they saw was the
Oh,
Trump
go-
that they
come
didn't
on.
like. And I don't think he did himself a great service tonight.
But
yes, and I also think we should let voters absorb this and see what they
Surely
say.
he
right?
spilled water on himself or something, right?
Let's look at where they are next week. We can make our pronouncements, but ultimately voters have to absorb.
Surely he spilled water or something, right?
On the one thing that, that
It's
Biden
raining
did fact
there?
check him on
Are they
Charlottesville thing,
outside?
He was completely wrong. Right, so he's up there talking about Charlottesville and Trump not denouncing the two sides, and Snopes was out last week. 7 months, 7 years too late, kind of thing on the
He
deal.
was just late to the
And that's
debate
thing Joe Biden's
table.
gonna fact check him on something that was.
I like to think that he's
proven
sweaty
wrong.
as shit.
More with the panel out here. A lot of notable moments, painful moments from tonight, but as we've been talking about, perhaps a single defining one as well, this one early on.
I mean, we were there, so. All right, guys. Well, I can't say I'm satisfied, but I'll see you next debate. Unfortunately entertaining.